Hey guys, today we are going to read more Kitty Corner. And so guys, we are starting off on chapter 4, and I'm going to read 4 chapters or 3 chapters. And so guys, pay attention or I will find you. Chapter 4. Michael heard Mia's bedroom door close. That meant Dad had finished reading to her. Michael took a deep breath. He had to convince Dad that they should foster Otis. But how? Dad appeared in the doorway. "Hey, how was practice today?" he asked. Michael frowned. Basketball was the last thing on his mind right now. "Okay, I guess," he said. "Can I talk to you about something else?" "Of course." Dad reached out to squeeze Michael's shoulder. "What is it?" Michael decided about to tell Dad everything. "Pete called. He wants us to father Otis." Dad raised his eyebrows as if to say, "Go on." Otis is what he named the kitten, after Otis elevators. Michael continued, "And some singer." "Ah, yes, Otis, Redding, the King of Soul," Dad said. Michael took another deep breath. Pete said he wasn't sure that keeping Otis was going to work out, and he wants to bring him over here tonight. Dad looked surprised. "Tonight?" Pete sounded really upset. Michael added, "And Otis has nowhere else to go." "You know, it isn't just up to me." Dad gave Michael a serious look. "We have to check with your mom." "Yeah, but what's the chance? We'll convince her." Michael kicked his toe against the kitchen cabinet. Mom was probably closing up the garden shop now and wouldn't be home until after his bedtime. He knew she wasn't crazy about the idea of taking in another kitten. What would Pete do with Otis if she said no? "Why don't you give her a call?" Dad suggested. "Just tell her what about you told me. You can write down the major points before you call, so you don't forget. Then she and I discuss it while you're get ready for bed." Michael sat down with a pencil and paper. A few minutes later, he called Mom. He was so nervous he raced through his list of reasons we should foster Otis. He paused before the last one. He would be a huge help to Pete. Michael finished. That he waited hopefully for Mom's reaction. Had he been convincing? Had he talked Mom into it? Mia probably would have been better at this. "Well, I don't know, honey," Mom said after a little while. "A kitten that young might be a lot of work." Michael grinned into the phone. This was promising. "I don't know" was a whole lot better than no. He pressed on. "You know, Mia and I will help." Mom was quiet on the other end. "Pete was done plenty of for us over the years." She finally said, "I guess we owe him a favor. Let me talk to your father for a moment." Michael handed Dad the phone and watched his expression as he talked things over with Mom. He was smiling. That was good news, right? Dad passed the phone back to Michael and said, "Your mother wants to talk to you again." Michael held his breath until Mom began to speak. "All right, tell Pete we'll take Otis," she said. "But remember, we are only fostering, and I don't want you to staying up late waiting for this kitten. If Pete doesn't come in a half an hour, you have to go to bed, mister." "Yes!" Michael clenched his fist. as if he just made a great basketball play. Then he froze a little surprised at himself. Why was he so happy about a silly cat? Mia would be thrilled, but then she was a cat lover to begin with. Thanks, Mom, Michael said. You're going to love Otis. I'm sure I will, Mom said. Michael could tell by her voice that she was smiling. Michael said goodbye, then headed straight for the hall closet. He knew that Mom had stored all the cat stuff there after they had found a home for Callie. While Dad called Pete, Michael pulled out the litter box, a blanket for a bed, kitten food, and a few toys. Michael wanted to have everything set before Pete came. While Michael got things ready for Otis, he kept his eye on the clock, hoping Pete and the kitten would get there before he had to go to bed. He was in his room when he heard the buzzer. Michael ran out of the apartment and into the hallway, still pulling on his pajama top. He could see Pete through the glass in the building's big front door. "Hi, Pete," Michael said as he unbolted the door and pulled it open. "Hey, Michael, thanks for helping me out," Pete said as he came into the hallway. He had a backpack just on the back ward, so the bag part was on his chest. "You want to say hi to Otis?" Pete asked in a soft voice. Pete leaned over, and Michael could see that the little tabby was inside the backpack. Only his fluffy head stuck out. He yawned, showing his pink tongue and teeny needle-sharp teeth. "Oh no, another new place. I was just getting used to the old one. All I need is just a quiet spot to go to sleep. I hope I can take a nice nap here." "Hi, Otis," Michael said as he scratched the kitten behind the ears. "Do you remember me? You're going to stay here for a while." "How long are you guys going to stand?" "Out there in the hall," Dad called from the apartment door. "Coming, Joe," Pete said as he followed Michael down the hallway. Once they were inside the Batali's apartment, Michael and Pete sat down on the couch, and Dad sank into his favorite seat, the old rocking chair. Pete smiled as he unzipped his backpack. "There you go, buddy. I know you want out." Otis looked around, then slowly stepped out of the bag. He tested his footing on the shaggy rug and sniffed in all directions. His whiskers quivered and his eyes twitched. Michael thought Otis looked nervous. That was a bummer. He had hoped the kitten would feel at home right away. "He's a great kitten," Pete said. He picked up Otis with one hand, and the kitten promptly snugged into his lap. He used a litter box, and he was really good at the vet. He played a little this afternoon, and he fell asleep while I was practicing guitar. Michael noticed that Pete's smile began to fade as he continued. But then he got really scared when my band came for rehearsal this evening. As soon as he heard the drums, he raced into my room and hid under my bed. He hissed whenever anyone tried to get him out." Pete shook his head. "I just can't have a cat who doesn't like music or other people. There's always a lot going on at my place. I don't think he'd be happy with me and the vet said it was important for Otis to get settled in a forever home as soon as possible. Michael looked at Otis, curled up in Pete's lap. The kitten had closed his eyes and tucked his nose under his tail. "He sure seems to like you now," Michael blurted out. "I mean, Otis looks really happy." "Well, he wasn't before." Pete scratched one of the kitten's orange ears. "He hated my band's music. I think he needs a quieter home. That's why I brought him here." Michael looked down at his feet and nodded. Pete was a good guy, and Michael really liked him, but he couldn't help thinking that Pete was making a big mistake. How could he give up a kitten as sweet as Otis? Chapter 5. Michael woke from a deep sleep to a loud piercing sound. As he sat up in bed, rubbing his eyes, he realized that the sounds had to be Otis yowling his head off. How could such a little kitten make so much noise? Was he sick? Michael stumbled through the dark apartment into the family room and found Mom next to Otis's bed. She was petting him and speaking softly, trying to calm him down. "Go back to sleep, Michael," she whispered. "He'll be fine." Michael was so tired he didn't argue. He headed straight to his room and climbed back into bed. As he fell asleep, he thought he might have been wrong about Otis and Pete's being perfect for each other. How could Pete or any deal with a cat who yowled all night long? It wasn't going to be easy to find a home for the noisy kitten. The next morning, he realized he'd been right about one thing. Mia was thrilled that when she woke up and discovered that Otis was there. The second she spotted the kitten on his little blanket bed on the couch, she squealed and ran straight toward him. Otis leapt on his feet, then froze. His hair stood up, and he arched his back when Mia reached for him. He jumped for the couch and scurried across the floor to hide under the side table. Mia knelt down and looked under the table. "Here, kitty." "Mia, sweetie," Mom said, "you need to give him a little time. He's still getting used to us. Let's let him hide down there for a while. He needs to have a quiet, safe place to go when he feels scared." Otis didn't like loud noises, Michael said. He swirled a spoon through his cereal. Mia looked at him doubtfully. "Pete said so. We have to be careful." "I'll be careful," Mia said. She sat down at the table and began to eat her oatmeal. Pete also said he needs a bath. "Oh, can I help?" Mia asked immediately. "And can Carmen come over to help too?" "I don't know," Michael began. "That might be too much for Otis." "I think it's fine," Dad answered as he sat down with his coffee. "You could probably use an extra hands. Most cats don't like water." "Great," Mia smiled happily. "I'll ask her at school." Michael frowned at Dad. Then he looked at Otis, the kitten, who was still under the table, but now he was busy playing. He rolled around on his back, his paws stretched wide, and grabbed at the tassel of the rug and nibbled it. He looked happy. Maybe Dad was right. Maybe it wasn't such a big deal. a big deal if both Mia and Carmen helps with his bath later. That day, as they walked home from school, Micah reminded Mia and Carmen about how timid and shy Otis could be, and remember what Dad said to Mia. Corrected Mia and Carmen about how timid and shy Otis could be, and remember what Dad said he told Mia. We'll have to take it slow with his bath thing. Cats don't like water, most cats, Mia corrected him. But jaguars love water. They swim and play in water all the time. Maybe Otis is like a jaguar. Yeah, maybe, Carmen agreed. Michael shook his head as he opened the door to their brownstone building. Mia was always full of facts about the great cats. Find Otis, he told her. Try to pet him and keep him calm. He needs to relax. As the girls ran into the apartment, Michael added, I'll get stuff ready for the bath. During computer time at school, Jackson and Michael had looked up how to give a cat a bath. Now he looked over the list they'd made one more time. It didn't sound too hard as long as you planned on getting wet. Still, Michael had no idea how Otis would react. Mom had set aside a few old towels. Michael rounded up some baby shampoo, a little comb, water on Lizzie's check. That was everything on the list. They were just about all set. Michael started the bath water and held his hands under it to make sure it wasn't too warm. They didn't need much water. Otis was too small. He turned off the faucet and headed for the family room. Hey, where are you? He called. He hopes Otis hadn't managed to run away like Callie had. That Callio cat had been a real escape artist. And here Michael followed Mom's voice to Mia's room. When he looked in, he saw Otis sleeping in Mia's lap. Carmen was petting the creamy fur under his chin. The girls are trying to soothe Otis before his bath, Mom said. Good, replied Michael. We need to keep him calm and work fast. Otis barely opened his eyes when Michael lifted him and carried him to the bathroom. Michael gently lowered Otis into the tub as Mia and Carmen crowded around Otis. Eyes popped open the instant his paws hit the water, and he crouched down and with a low yowl, ready to leap out. What's happening? Why am I wet? I don't like it. Mia, can you keep him in there without hurting him? Michael asked. Of course, Mia said. She reached forward to hold him, just behind his front legs. Otis let out a tiny mew. It's okay, boy. We'll make this nice and quick. I just need to get you wet so I can wash some of this crusty stuff off of you. Jackson and Michael had read that cats rarely need baths since they clean themselves, but Otis was really dirty. The fur on his belly was sticky and matted. Michael guessed it might be dried ketchup. from the fast food bag. He took the plastic cup and poured water over Otis's back. Would the kitty try to jump out, or would he yowl again? The way he had in the middle of the night. What a good cat, Carmen exclaimed. He didn't even flinch. She reached forward and scratched him between the ears. Michael had to agree. He could hardly believe it. Otis stood quietly. He seemed to like Carmen's petting. He even tilted his head so she could get behind his ears. He's so tiny when he's wet, Mia said, and I thought he looked scrawny before, Carmen said. He's just a small fry. He'll get bigger, Michael told her. Mia laughed. Very funny, Michael. Huh? Michael wasn't sure what she meant. He was focused on rinsing Otis. Remember when we found him in the elevator? Mia asked. It smelled like fries, and you just called him small fry. Get it? Michael rolled his eyes. Small fry. Carmen let out a hearty laugh. She leaned her head into the tub, putting her nose right up to Otis's face. Are you a small fry, Otis? She asked in a baby voice. Otis opened his eyes wide and let out a hiss. Too close, get away! The kitten's ear went back and he whipped out his paw. Carmen did not even have a chance to get out of the way. Ow, he scratched me. Carmen jumped back and touched her finger to her nose. Michael felt his stomach jump when he saw the angry red line where blood was welling up. You were in his face. What do you expect? Michael glared at Carmen and turned to Otis. The kitten was sopping wet and covered with suds. His ears drooped. Mom! Mia yelled. Otis scratched Carmen. Michael gulped. Why had he yelled at Carmen like that? It wasn't really her fault. His heart raced. He quick poured several cups of water over Otis's back. Then he pulled the kitten from Mia's grasp and wrapped him in a towel. Michael heard Mom's hurried footsteps. He held Otis tightly to his chest and softly scratched the damp fur behind his ears. It's okay, Otis, he whispered. She didn't mean to scare you. Otis shivered and blinked up at Michael. Thank goodness I'm out of the water. Now I'm cold, but it's warm in the boy's arms. Michael's chest felt tight when he looked down at the little kitten. He wanted to protect Otis and keep him safe. In fact, maybe he wanted to keep him forever. If Pete really didn't want this little tabby, maybe Otis should stay right where he was with the battalies. Mom appeared looking worried. Oh, Carmen, sweetie, she said when she saw the red streak across Carmen's nose. Mom rested one hand on Carmen's head and opened the medicine cabinet with the other. What happened? She asked. She looked right at Michael. He swallowed. She got too close. She was right up in his face. It wasn't Carmen's fault, Mia said, hands on her hips. No, it wasn't, Michael admitted. Otis doesn't trust her. He took a deep breath. He doesn't trust anyone. He glanced at Carmen. Sorry, I yelled. It's okay, Carmen whispered, but her eyes were brimming with tears. Michael looked away. Michael, you and I need to have a talk. Mom sighed. She wetted a cotton ball with liquid from a brown bottle. Michael frowned. Talk? He thought, great. Would Mom send Otis away? There was no way she'd put up with a cat who scratched people. Carmen, this will only sting for a second. Mom promised. I just need to clean it out. The liquid made bubbles in a red line across Carmen's nose. When Mom pulled the cotton away, ow! I'm okay. Carmen smiled up at Mom. I didn't mean to scare him. He just looked so cute. I told you guys. Had to be careful, Michael said. Mia spun around to face Michael. Why are you being such a know-it-all? Carmen and I have read tons about cats. You don't know anything. Michael took another deep breath. I've been doing some research, too. Otis was abandoned. He was left all alone. I read that abandoned cats can be more nervous and scared than other cats. That's why I yelled at you, Carmen. I was just worried about Otis. I'm really sorry. How many times was he going to have to apologize? It's okay, Carmen said again. Michael felt the kitten squirm, so he put Otis on the floor. Otis's gave a tiny mew. Meow. Looked around, then shook his entire body. Drops of wet water flew everywhere. Michael tried not to laugh, but when he looked around, he noticed that everyone else was cracking up. Even Mom was smiling. Is he rinsed off? She asked. Pretty much, Michael said. When you need to come with me, Otis can stay here with the girls. Michael didn't want to leave Otis, but at least he was sure that Carmen and Mia would be more careful with the kitten now. Michael followed Mom into the kitchen. She turned back to face him. Honey, you know you can't talk to Carmen that way. She's our guest, and she's trying to help. I know, it just came out, Michael said. I was so worried about Otis. I'm worried too, Mom admitted. He's sweet, but he's really settling in. That's exactly what Pete said. Michael mumbled. What else did Pete say? Mom tilted her head to one side and looked into Michael's eyes. He said that the vet thinks Otis needs to find his forever home family soon. Michael crossed his fingers and hoped Mom might decide that Otis should just stay with them. If Pete didn't want him, Michael sure did. Even with all the yowling, Otis was one terrific kitten. You should call Dr. Bulford and find out why she said that it might help us to help Otis. Can you help call her? Michael kicked his stone toe against the floor. He felt a little shy about calling the vet, even though he talked to her a lot of times in person. Remember how you said you and Mia would help with Otis? Mom asked. I think this would be a good job for you. Mom gave him an encouraging smile. I'll go see how the girls are doing. Okay. Michael trudged over to the laptop to look up the vet's number. He was relieved when he heard Dr. Buffalo's voice. She was always so nice. Michael quickly told her about how Otis had scratched Carmen's nose. That sounds like a normal response, Dr. Buffalo said, lots of cats are afraid of baths, and they often scratch when they're scared. It's their way of protecting themselves. Michael let out a sigh. Otis seemed scared a lot. His yowling woke us up last night. It's going to take him time to feel comfortable. Dr. Bufflord said. He needs to learn to trust you, that's why. I think it would be good to find him a permanent home soon. It'll be hard for him to settle in with your family and then have to move on to someone new. After they talked to a little more, Michael thanked Dr. Bufflord and hung up. He found everyone in the family room. Carmen was dangling a piece of red string in the air, and Otis was sitting up on his hind legs. He batted the string back and forth. His eyes were bright and wide. What did Dr. Bufflord say? Mom asked. She said that Otis needs a real home to feel safe, Michael told them. And she said he needs a routine. It'll help him adjust. Like she said, we should always feed him at the same time in the same place. And we should let him have a safe place where we don't bug him, like his bed or under the table where he was hiding earlier. Stuff like that. We can do that, Mia said. Mom nodded. Good, but don't forget, we also need to try to find Otis a home. Maybe, she thought for a moment, maybe the two of you could make some flyers to put up around the neighborhood. With luck, we'll find him a forever family soon. Great idea, said Mia. Michael looked at her. Didn't she want to keep Otis like he did? She gave him a little smile, and he understood. Mom needed to know that they were working hard to find Otis a home. He nodded. Sure, we can make the flyers after school tomorrow. Mom smiled. Great, I know we all want that's best for Otis. Chapter 7. Michael was exhausted the next day. Otis had prowled around and yowled all night. At one point in the middle of the night, Michael had woken up just in time to see Otis walk into his room and sniff around. Michael blinked barely-eyed and wondered if the kitten might be looking for something. He got out of bed to refill his food dish and give him fresh water. He tried to pet him, but Otis wouldn't stay still. Finally, Michael went back to his room, closed his door, and turned on a fan to drown out the mournful meows. Somehow, Mia slept right through the noise. In the morning, she was bright-eyed and happy to see Otis. Michael couldn't believe it. He felt like he could hardly hold up his head. Don't forget, we have to make the flyers this afternoon, Michael reminded Mia. Mia stuck out her bottom lip, pouting. You know we have to find him a home, Michael said. He and Mia had talked it all over through the day before, after Carmen had left. If they agreed to make the flyers, it would give them more time to convince Mom that they should keep Otis. But now Michael was starting to think that maybe the kitten needed a different home, a home of his own, where he could yowl all night at somebody else. Otis really needs a forever family, and I really need a full night's sleep, Mom, as she sat down at the table. I'm starting to think Pete knew something when he named him after Otis. Redding. Redding, Dad said from the kitchen doorway. The cat sure can sing the blues. Cats are nocturnal. Mia bit into her bagel. In the wild, they hunt at night and sleep during the day. I read that most house cats learn to sleep when their families do. Not Otis, Michael grumbled. Last night he woke up 3 times. Michael looked over at Otis, who was snoozing on his bed by the sofa. Dad took a gulp of coffee. If this keeps up, we're all going to be singing the blues. After school, Mia and Michael snacked on brownies. While they worked on the flyer, they used a picture of Otis playing with the red string. His yellow eyes were bright and sparkly, and he almost looked like he was smiling. Michael didn't think anyone would ever believe that the happy little kitten in the picture could make such a loud, sad meow. Meet Otis. Michael read the poster headline out loud. He needs a loving home. Will you adopt him? Underneath that, he typed call the Battalies and put in their phone number. It seems short, Mia said. Shouldn't we tell more about him? I think it's good for now. I bet we get lots of calls, said Michael. Then we can pick the best family if the Battalies weren't keeping him. Michael wasn't going to let Otis go to just any home. He wanted to ask lots of questions. He wanted to make sure that Otis' new owner was the perfect match for him. They printed out 20 flyers on plain white typing paper. He can hang them on light posts, Mia said, and in shop windows. Michael added, Mr. Lee's grocery, Miss Lopez bakery, the drugstore, and the bagel shop on the corner. They all had bulletin boards where people advised things like concerts or classes or yard sales. Why not a cute little kitten? Before they left the apartment, Michael and Mia stopped by the windowsill where Otis was snoozing. He barely lifted his head, and as they gave him a quick scratch under the chin, he squinted his eyes constantly. That feels nice. I feel safe here. I can keep sleeping. They walked around the neighborhood carrying the flyers and a roll of tape. Mia held each flyer in a place, and Michael taped it up. As they passed people on the sidewalk, Michael wondered if any of them would want to adopt Otis. The more people he saw, The more he worried, how would he know what question to ask? When people came to look at Otis, how would he know for sure that Otis was going to go to a good home? That night, Michael lay in bed reading, even though he had music playing on his iPod. He could hear Otis starting up his evening yowl. It was funny how the kitten's pitiful meows seemed to rise and fall in time with the music. The meows grew louder, and soon Michael looked up to see Otis pushing his head through the partly open door. Otis stuck his pink nose in the air and sniffed around. He tilted his head to one side. He flicked his fluffy orange ears and padded over to Michael's iPod and speakers. He batted the iPod with his paws. He looked right at Michael and yowled. "What is it, Otis?" Michael asked. "What's going on, boy?" Otis stood there for a moment. Then he took a few steps over to a dirty basketball jersey that Michael had thrown on the floor. Otis sniffed his shirt, then started to knead it with his paws. He purred. "This seems like a good place to sleep. Not too quiet, not too loud. It's cozy and it's close to the boy. I'll just lie down for a little while." "Your purr almost as loud as your yowl," Michael said. Otis's purring sounded like it was part of the song. It had the same easy rhythm. Michael laughed. Otis didn't notice. He curled up on the shirt and closed his eyes. Michael turned off the light and closed his own eyes. When Michael woke up in the morning, he felt better. He had actually slept. He remembered Otis yowling around 5 or 6 o'clock, but Michael had fallen back to sleep, and Otis slept in his room the whole time. Maybe it was the music. Michael thought he remembered Pete saying that Otis had naps while he practiced the guitar. Soft music and a sleepy, quiet cat. Michael thought there might be a connection, but how could he find out for sure? It was time to make a plan. Chapter 8, guys. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed that video, and bye!